They don't got views. Are they gonna have your mom down there?
Kind of there, got her back. Yeah,
When she have
she had it yesterday. So, BOD, we had to be there at 5 a.m. Why is it got back at like 7 o'clock? It's been on the couch.
What kind of knee surgery was it?
The Portuguese.
Yeah.
Now?
When?
One day? BOD. No. Yeah.
Wild.
I know. I
watch it?
was like, really? Could we have some medical evidence?
I don't wanna know how they did it.
They used my dad when she was recovering, you know, like,
Yeah.
I don't wanna see the movie.
That is amazing.
and that's what my mom said last night on the way home.
Still waiting for one,
So,
right?
take the doctor.
What's
And see if I can, like,
If you have a corner.
So,
She's gonna go have with a piece.
so, like, it was, any piece, no matter what.
Daughter, you should.
I have to learn how to make her.
Okay.
So, he has.
And the pain meds haven't worn off yet.
There's a 30-hour, they call it a cocktail. So they said Saturday's gonna be.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the BCAG Board of Directors meeting of July 27th, 2023. Join me in a salute to the flag of our nation. Ready? Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Board Member Connolly,
Here.
Board Member Durfee, Board Member Ritter, here, Board Member Kimmelshue,
Here.
Board Member Teeter, Board Member Knuckles, Board Member Reynolds, here, Board Member Calderon, Board Member Pittman,
Here.
Board Member Tryon.
Here, Calderon.
All right, he's right on time. Perfect. The clerk, have we had any electronic, comments on any board items, so I won't
None.
bring it up again. First up, the consent agenda. Would anyone up here like to pull anything from consent? Any public interest in pulling anything? I'll entertain a motion on a consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. You get it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items for action, number 7, it's a public hearing and approval of the 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program. County Board.
BCAG is required to amend 2023 Federal Transportation Improvement Program, the FTIP, for various local projects. This amendment includes a new air quality emissions analysis, committee determination, which requires the public hearing. The purpose of this amendment is to add 2 new projects in the and a technical modification on the 3rd project. First project is a new non-exempt project for the Road Extension Project for the town of Paradise. The town was fortunate enough to receive $60.4 million in grant funds. $1.8 million in community project funding, congressionally directed spending, and $58.6 million from Housing and Urban Development, Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery. Scope of the project is to complete phase 1 portion to close gaps to 4 north-south roadways for disconnected residential areas. New roadway links serving long dead-end streets, including South Libby, Ridgewood, and Sawmill Roads to Road. Project also includes completing the environmental component for the entire section, Prince Road, all the way to the Skyway. So in essence, almost another Pearson Road, just south. Project is technically capacity increasing or capacity changing, and project also is not included in BCAG's long-range regional transportation plan. So the purpose of this amendment is to update that air quality conformity determination and that's a new project. Second project is a new exempt project for the Cohasset Road. It's called Widening and Fire Safety Project, but it really is not a widening project. This project programs $1.4 million, also in community project funding, congressionally directed spending. And it's really to do a feasibility study and preliminary engineering studies to see what can be done past the airport all the way to the community asset. Identify traffic flow improvements, maybe some shoulder improvements, some turnout, stuff like that. And at the end of those feasibility studies, that will provide the county with the tools to identify what to pursue for future grant opportunities. Federal funds, they are required to be in BCAG's short-range federal transportation improvement program, an item in BCAG's long-range. The third project being amended is really a technical correction for a change of scope for a bike project in the town of Paradise that originally when they secured grant funds, it was identified as a Class 2 bike lane project. They were able to get approval to change it to a Class 1. So instead of stripes on the road, it'll be a separated. Since this amendment includes new non-exempt projects, the amendment includes, again, that new air quality emissions analysis and conformity. This item was presented to BCAG's Transportation Advisory Committee. It was distributed to the interagency consultation group made up of our federal and state partners. BCAG has received concurrence. BCAG held a public workshop on this amendment, and it's here for approval today. Everything's posted on BCAG's website. Staff is requesting the board chair open the public hearing to solicit final comments. No significant changes are proposed. Staff requests the BCAG board approve Amendment 3 to the 2023 FTIP by resolution 2023-24-01. Resolution also authorizes staff to make corrections or changes to state and federal approval. Any change will present this at a future meeting.
Okay, we'll open the public meeting. Is there anybody from the public wishes to speak? I'll close the public meeting. There are legalities there, and now we'll entertain a motion.
Of Amendment 3 to the 2023. Second.
Any comments? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. On to item number 8. Action item, it's a public hearing and approval of the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan, the RTIP.
Hey, Chair.
Ron, you're up again.
Yes, the 2020 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategy is required to be amended to ensure consistency in the short-range federal transportation improvement program, or just approved in BCAG's long-range regional transportation plan sustainable community projects. For all amendments through FTIP amendment number 3, it also updates the air quality emissions analysis and conformity determination for the same projects. Staff requests the board chair open the public hearing to solicit final comments. If no significant changes are proposed, staff requests the BCAG board approve amendment number 1 to the long-range 2020 Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Strategy by resolution number 2023-24-02. If any changes arise, staff will present those to the board. just ensuring the long-range plan and the short-range program are in alignment, and this will facilitate the project delivery process when your local public works directors go to get these projects going.
We'll open a public hearing, public present, we'll close the public hearing. Questions or comments by the board? I'll entertain a motion.
Second?
Very good. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Passes unanimously. Okay, Board of Directors meeting, item number 9, it's a public hearing for BCAG's FTA Section 5310 grant application to determine if there are local nonprofit agencies able to provide ADA compliant complimentary paratransit service. By that, Sarah.
Morning, Board. Last public hearing of the day. We are applying for the Federal Transit Administration Section 5310 program to purchase 5 replacement paratransit vans. And we are required to hold a public hearing to determine if there are any nonprofit agencies available to provide elderly and disabled. We are requesting that the board chair open for a public hearing, and if no public comment is provided, to approve the resolution that allows the application with Caltrans and FTA.
We'll open the public hearing. Anybody from the public like to speak? Close the public hearing. Questions or comments by the board?
I've just got a quick question for Sarah. So if there were nonprofits that would provide this service, then does that mean we would not do it? We would not apply for the grant to get this money?
It hasn't been an issue in the past, but other agencies are eligible to apply for this program.
Okay.
There is 2 different spots that they could apply for. It could be operating or capital funds. So we have other agencies like Work Training Center and 211 that do apply for the program. I haven't seen another nonprofit agency come forward that could provide our paratransit or ADA service.
So this is this kind of a competitive grant? Anybody can apply for it if you qualify. We've done this in the past, right?
Yes. How we get most of our funding for our paratransit vans.
Questions or comments?
So just related to this, today at 9:30, the state is doing the master plan on aging, to update what's happening related to seniors. And so while I don't think it's going to impact one of the top 3 topics, and so while I don't think we have any alternative options, here the hope is that that can address these. Is interested, especially BCAG.
Not to belabor the point, but one more. How does this work? Is it a phone call? Is it a text to get the vans to come and pick up the people, basically? Or they don't necessarily have a normal route that they go on?
So, it's an on-demand service.
Okay.
So someone could call, to ride in advance and, at their location and take need to go.
So if I'm 85 years old and I'm in a wheelchair and I have a doctor's appointment, that's kind of the.
And that particular service that you're talking about is also one that we're along with, are aware of that group is meeting from time to time. We are hoping too that does yield another service.
Anybody wants that information?
And the service here in Butte County is well used, is that correct?
There was a reduction after COVID, but we have seen that.
Thank you.
Are there any communities that present a particular challenge to the service in Bill County?
By challenge, do you mean they have a greater need for a paratransit service?
And maybe a tad underserved?
Yeah, I think prior to the fire, there was a significant guys in Magalia that were utilizing paratransit. There still are, but if there were any places where the service was falling short or needs, it would be uncovered in our UTN process. Victoria, have you seen any comment on that in the last few years?
Usually we will get people requesting that we extend our boundaries, but we found with the additional transit, which is 3 miles and 3/4 mile past where the fixed route goes, the cost just gets prohibitive. It gets prohibitively expensive for most people the further out that we go. So even if they want service, only not many people would be able to afford it. We cover with those 4 zones, there's the 88 core zone and the 3 supplemental zones, the majority of Butte County residents. And then, as you know, Gridley is covered by the Gridley Feather Flyer. So we haven't been receiving very many requests for people who are outside that zone most recently. But we are, as Andy said, we are hopeful that the NEMT program that connects jurisdictions will help to bridge those gaps, because we are still getting requests from people in Paradise or in Oroville who need a doctor's appointment outside of the area.
The Feather Flyer does provide an excellent service in our community, but it still limits residents who spend some of these impairments outside the city limits. Is there a plan for?
You know, the difficulty of our system is that people have to. So that's what makes it a little bit here. Non-emergency medical transport. Paradise and Oroville can be boundaries can emergency. So that's, we hope that that will bring back a little bit of that demand that we lost. What inconvenience. There also is the issue of connecting with our neighboring counties. How can we interact with them, because there are people coming from some on-demand pay for it, similar to non-emergency. So that's part of our task too, is to how can we interact. We can't go. It's difficult for us to go all the way to, say, Sacramento. Definitely, probably pick up. They're on our media board.
More directly answer your question, Mr. Calderon, yes, there is a plan for Gridley and Biggs in non-emergency medical transport.
Thank you.
I have kind of a quick question about, I don't know if you can even answer this, but do you think the telemed process that folks can use, contact their doctor from home, has that affected your system at all?
We did a fair amount of public outreach when we were doing. Not something that we heard, but we are planning to do additional outreach this fall and winter, and certainly something that we could ask if that has changed behavior.
More of an informational thing. And the other thing I know of, I'm very aware of over at Willows, they're having difficulty getting an ambulance service, plus the other factor, because most of the Willows folks do utilize Enlo. Kind of an expanding thing, and I don't know if Glenn County has any at all for this particular category, but something to look out to in the future.
other questions or comments? Entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Hang you up, you know? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Number 10, Sustainable Community Strategy Progress Report. Brian.
Morning, Board. Despite what my name tag says, I'm Brian Lestagner. Staff has prepared a SES progress report in coordination with our planning directors group and advisory committee. This is something we do every 4 years as we begin to develop our RTP. Look back at the past 4 years, kind of look at several indicators, see where things are going in terms of transportation, housing, development. So this is a little broader than study we presented a couple months ago, a couple board meetings ago, that PlaceWorks prepared, which specifically. The state also prepares one of these as required under SB 1. Overall finding of that this time around is that we, as a state, are not on track to meet our gas reduction targets for the year 2025 coming up. As I said before, we have 12 indicators. We've added a couple new ones this year. I'll briefly run through the charts we've prepared as an overview. The reference map there has some of these deal with development. So if you look at the top to the bottom, categories, urban, all the way down to agriculture. Urban areas typically have shorter vehicle trips, or opportunities for transit, access to bike, and as you work out agriculture. Annual growth rates with attachment B kind of address this with our latest regional growth staff presented to you. So we anticipated not quite as big of a drop in terms of population decrease that actually has occurred. This has started a rebound. So we've discussed this with. We look at new housing that's occurred over the last 4 years, so this period 2018. Most of this is occurring in the urban and established areas. We haven't quite begun to. Typically rebuilds from the Camp Fire and the North Complex fire. So we looked at, okay, what are, in terms of our growth areas, were units destroyed and how are they coming back? How is the rebuild? Pretty much even to where ratios are similar. Units destroyed and established, and that's where. The new housing mix, so this is what we're looking at. So this is multifamily to single family, the ratio of development occurring. Between 2010 and 2018, we had 42% of the new multifamily. The last 4 years, this has increased to 44%. In our plan, we've only included 32%. We're working with the local planning directors on. They're seeing a lot of new multifamily units coming in, so we're probably going to be increasing this ratio. Why this is significant to house gas reductions and passenger vehicles. More trip rates that will make as many trips overall. Next slide. So, percent of new housing units in our transit priority project area. So, transit priority project area is an area for future ways. Hours. These all occur in Chico. So the more unit or more housing development, jobs we place in those areas, all shorter trip lengths. We've been exceeding what we anticipated long-range plan, short term. Down to our jobs to housing unit ratios, so this is jobs within the region. Housing units. COVID somewhat affected this in 2020. Lots of jobs, so this ratio. Regional transportation investment. So, with our 2021 RTIP plan included funds for the completion of Highway 70, wrapping up right now. There's a lot of emergency, way funds associated with the Campfire North. Projects are somewhat wrapping up. All percentage towards roads, increase transport. Moving down to travel mode to work, so pretty much flat across the board, except categories. Bicycling and walking and work at home. So work at home has been increasing. Bicycle and walking has been decreasing. So there's somewhat of an inverse effect, and we've had discussions with our It seems that most of the people that are now working from home that were bicycling, and this is occurring statewide. If you look. So this is a new one we've included this year. This is taken directly from the state's report. GHG and VMT are generally hard to quantify. Somewhat of a method of looking at traffic counts, as well as fuel sales for the region, and they've developed this for every region. As you can see here, we're not close to our 25 target is 7%. Latest graph has us sitting at about a You can see there's a dip there. Campfire 2018 has started to come back. Local planners wanted us to make sure and note that, there's a lot of activity. A lot of vehicle activity associated with rebuilding, and trips going up and down the ridge.
What accounts for the dip around like 2011, 2000?
The economy, recession. Yeah, so if you notice, VMT, how much people drive is really tied a lot to the economy. In general, economy driving. Jobs, people have more money, they can afford it.
Being poor and a poor economy is good for the environment. Like,
there you go.
how do we meet these goals?
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. There isn't one thing to address.
It seems interesting, I mean, because like, right of the recession in 2008, we don't see the biggest drops in health.
Yeah, there's some lag.
Does the uptick in purchase of electric vehicles play into this at all? Or is that too hard to figure that out? It seems like there's a lot more electric vehicles on the road.
Yeah, so that's a great question. ARB doesn't allow us to take credit. I mean, VMT overall, so vehicle travel doesn't change. Greenhouse gases do. we don't get to take credit because they're based on state mandates. So the state has come out with by the year 20. New vehicles need to be electric. So personally, as BCAG and our SES, we don't get to take credit for that unless we go above.
Is there a way to know in Butte County how many electric vehicles there are? Is that?
Sure, there's a vehicle we can get.
Question regarding, back up with your housing. Now that Paradise is rebuilding, are you considering those new builds? Are you considering them existing builds? How are you accounting?
Yeah, for accounting purposes, we consider, rebuilds, so we try to keep track of the units that were. There is some other new construction going.
Okay, so it's not a matter of you drew a line under it and said, okay, this is where we are now, and anything that's rebuilt is a new build.
As rebuilds. The base year of our last plan was 2018. We had to note them as destroyed and track them as rebuilt.
Yeah, because it, just in your graph, it looks like the housing has still decreased. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, we
Yeah.
rebuilt a bunch of homes, so if your graph is showing that you have to make up the inventory that was lost before you show an increase, then that explains it.
Yeah.
So, could you go back to page 3? And then, that's a map of Butte County.
Sure.
And so, I'm somewhat confused by the growth areas around Orville, because I have knowledge of them. If you start on the east there's not a single house been built there, nor is there anything progress beyond just a conception. There might be housing there in that growth area. Then if you go down south towards Palermo, there's no growth south of, Ophir. There's nothing south of Ophir. And then over, east of Highway 70, that was a conceptual drawing and not a single permit, so not a single lot created. So these growth areas that you're showing around Orville, there's not a single map in to the county to build a home, yet you're showing us growth areas. How does that work?
Well, so we take these from the general plans. General plans
Oh,
identify
okay.
these as proposed
Okay.
future growth areas.
So, but does that, I just want to make sure it doesn't screw us up.
Yeah, so what these are self-identified areas.
Okay.
So, for future forecasting, we can identify zero units or zero employment. And we work with the jurisdiction.
That clarifies it. We did all kinds of stuff in the plan.
Yeah.
Well, like one of them to happen,
Yeah, and we run these areas by local planning staff every 4 years to make sure those plans are, I guess, still active or haven't expired.
Kind of like,
Want to build around the airport?
Or they're not needed, yeah.
Yeah.
well, you answered my question. Sure. Any other questions or comments? Is this for information? Any public comment on this matter? Thank you very much. We'll move on to number 11. Update on North Valley Passenger Rail Strategic Plan, where they're bringing the train to Orville. Chris?
Someday perhaps. Thank you. Yeah, we want to give you an update on the progress on North Valley Rail and developing this. As we noted in the memo, we've developed a new project website, northvalleyrail.org. Previously, we had a tab on the BCAG side, but we wanted a standalone site. So when you have a chance to take a look at it, we kind of formulated it to contain all the project-related documents and information. Staff's updating it regularly, and it's real helpful when applying for grants and lobbying to have a nice website that people can refer back to when they're evaluating. We've also included on the website, several different forms. You can sign up for our email distribution list. You can leave a comment, and then you can also indicate your company or organization's support of the North Valley Rail project. And then we also have another tab where we have the list of those organizations and entities that have supported the project. Another kind of helpful thing for lobbying. And then we just also wanted to note that we've got a new 8-page booklet. I think our last meeting we mentioned that was under development, so that's completed as well. It's on the project website. Provides some great information on just basics of the projects and all of the project, and then also, highlights the main key benefits of the service. Another good thing for when you're lobbying and going out for grants to have booklet for people to look at. Then we wanted to circle back on the virtual public workshop that was held at the end of February. I think a few were able to attend, and we had great turnout for it. There was a typo in the memo. It was actually 127 people attended the virtual workshop, and we had 253 people register. So, but yeah, we had the whole project team, attend this virtual workshop, and we provided a variety of information, background on the project. We provided updates on the progress of the plan, including with the station locations, that type of information. We also reviewed. And then we did some live polling where we were able to have some questions pop up on the screen. And then we're able to, click to select their answer. We asked some things like, where are you from? Have you ridden passenger trains before? Where do you anticipate traveling on North Valley trains, et cetera? And then since the workshop, we've developed a summary report, which is on the website as well. And I think we provided a link. It kind of just goes into all the detail of how the questions were responded to, what the results were, and also like the noticing for the workshop and that sort of thing. So I think overall, we gained a lot of valuable input. It's going to kind of go back into the plan development, and the plan kind of represented that community input. So happy with that. And we wanted to mention also, you may recall that we were applying for a federal RAISE grant and funding the next phase of the project once the study is complete, which is environmental documents, and then also. And we were notified at the end of June that we were not successful in receiving it. Disappointing. We kind of didn't really expect that we would. It was kind of a long shot throwing it out there. Sometimes it's good to get out there for folks to see it and understand it, and the next go around you're maybe more likely to get funding. The good thing that did come out of this was that even though we didn't get the funding, the U.S. DOT deemed the project a project of merit. They do that for projects that make their highly rated project list, and the main purpose of it is to encourage us to reapply for that grant in the future. So I guess there's a silver lining there, even though we're scheduling a debrief with U.S. DOT staff in August to kind of get more information on what we could do differently with the application next time. If it was so good, to receive this merit designation, why didn't we get it? We'll be working on that next month. But we're pursuing an alternative funding approach for the environmental and the 15% design. And what we're kind of proposing to do and take steps forward on is to look at programming $2.5 million of the $5 million that we need in BCAG's Regional Transportation Improvement Program. That would come before the BCAG Board of Directors at the December board meeting for your approval. So this is something that we're going to work towards doing. And then the remaining $2.5 million that's needed, we've been coordinating with Caltrans District 3. John's had meetings with the director there, and they've verbally committed to committing the other $2.5 million in their interregional improvement program. Go forward for approval by the state, I think in March 2024. So if we're successful with this funding approach, the funds would be available to begin the environmental and design work towards the end of December 2020. It does kind of push our schedule out about a year from where we'd hope to be, but would also keep the project on track. And so one of the keys, if we're going to be able to do this, is that it requires that a project study report equivalent document be prepared. And so originally, we didn't think that was gonna need to be completed until December when it comes to the BCAG board. We were informed somewhat recently that the deadline's actually, well, not the deadline, but Caltrans staff needs it by about October 15th. So, because of that, what we're gonna be doing is having our consultant team focus their efforts between now and then on producing that document. Funding, plan on track, you know, to start moving forward with the future phases of the project. And so, that is gonna cause a little bit of a delay in the releasing, like, the draft strategic plan document. We originally hoped, towards September, and now it's gonna be more like December. So it doesn't really affect the overall, you know, project schedule in the sense that it's gonna risk the grant funding for it or anything like that. It's more just a little bit further down. So that's kind of where we're going with that. I just wanted to mention that we're continuing to meet with the project development team. That's, we've coordinated to work on the strategic plan development. This comprised of city, county, planning and public works staff within the whole study corridor between Sacramento and Chico, including various BCAG staff and youth center transit staff at Chico State University. Met with them in April and reviewed some of the more updated project details, and we're gonna meet with them again in August. And, you know, in terms of the components of the strategic plan development, we're very close to, like, having most of the main nuts and bolts of the plan completed. So we expect to review those with them at the August meeting. Subsequently, review it with the BCAG board either August or September. And those are gonna include things like ridership information, capital costs and operating and maintenance cost estimates, fare structure and the pricing plan, and also the funding plan. So, you know, we are gonna have those things ready, you know, in August. So I don't know if we'll quite get them completed in time to take them to you guys at the end of that. That's all I have, and be happy to answer any questions.
How come Orville got dropped? You have land available?
Yeah, you know,
Settle?
we're hoping that, you know, a future phase can work that in. You know, we've incorporated a bus route, and that was kind of the key with having the Gridley station. That, we're gonna have buses time to go from Oroville to the Gridley station, time to meet the trains as they arrive and they depart. Provide that connection for folks to get over there. We couldn't do both. You know, it was either gonna go up to Oroville or up to Chico. Chico's a bigger market. It has the university, and then additionally, the state's very interested down the road.
Rubbing it in now. Come on.
You're trying, that's good.
Well, we have a place to put it, right, Mayor? We got the old roundhouse. You could turn the whole train around right there.
Another thing I've mentioned is that it provides the opportunity in the future to run trains up to Red Bluff and Red.
What about the canyon, those scenic views?
I know it'd be great tourist opportunities up there, you can do some fishing trips. Yeah.
All right, I give a.
Good try. Well, let me throw in here too, as a teenager, I used to ride that Zephyr from Orville to Sacramento every weekend for about 3 years. Visit my dad down there, so I would hope that route, at least into Sacramento, where he dumps you off right downtown, would still be available, because I remember it's like an hour drive and back and forth, and then at the Orville Depot, there wasn't just myself, there was dozens of people getting on and off that. So it's just kind of weird how history comes back to repeat itself. We should have had it in place.
I know, yeah, there used to be all this passenger rail in the state, and it all disappeared at some point.
Even before that, we had the Electric Northern. It went to Sacramento. My grandmother used to ride it for 35 cents and go shopping in Sacramento every day, out of Thermalito, believe it or not. So it's funny how it comes back to repeat itself, and really that was the solution to transporting. So trying to bring the Zephyr back, but I certainly rode it, and it was enjoyable, and it was quick, and it was done, and I got to ride it by myself.
Yeah.
Parents didn't have to do it. So
We're hoping the bus connection to Gridley is, you know, an easy connection for folks to make, especially if the bus arrives right as the train's getting there. You step off the bus and the train's already there and you hop on it. You know, the parking area for the station at Gridley's has parking, it has a drop-off zone for buses right there at the platform, so.
But I also realized the Southern Pacific freight going through Orville is pretty heavy. there's a lot of trains. And that's the lowest altitude route through the Sierra Nevada, and they're all tied, and you have to space between trains all the time. As long as the canyon's open. It seems to be getting closed down more often than being open lately. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really quick, first off, I just want to congratulate my brothers here for going down swinging. You guys did a great job there. The other thing is there's also will there also be a bus coming down to Paradise? Does that go into Gridley? Does that go into Chico?
Right.
What is the?
We're gonna look at the bus connections for all the stations as we get closer, and, only the Beeline buses that go from Paradise to Chico. You know, there would be, we're gonna make sure that for the Chico station, first of all, that the Beeline buses align with the train schedule there. So, we'll have to look at, you know, coming in from Paradise, and other, you know, kind of outlying communities, if that would be time. Something that we haven't looked at yet, but we'll definitely look at that. Especially with, like Brian was presenting, you know, our efforts to reduce people driving, and make us do things to make that happen. The more we can do to get people to take buses to the train.
I can see a possibility where people in Paradise that are traveling, and we have a lot of residents that travel, family, holidays, that, you know, if they can make a connection, jump on the bus, make a connection to get the plane to go to fly out of Sacramento, that's a huge savings, you know, and it may be more cost effective for them than trying to park their car down there.
Those are great comments, and I'll make a note when I get back to the office to make sure that we take a look at that Paradise connection to the Chico station and try to make it as easy as we can. And one other thing I should mention, you know, the North Valley Rail project that we're doing, it's going to go down, you know, through the station at Gridley, station in Marysville, which will serve Yuba City and Marysville, and also there's a station south of there at Plumas Lake. But then the next stop will be Natomas, and there's going to be a timed shuttle bus going up to the Sacramento airport. So, you know, you can, and it'll be timed with the train arrival. So you get on a train, you get off at Natomas, and you step right on the bus. It takes you right out to the airport. Stay on those trains. It goes to Sac Midtown, south and west. To point out that Sac Airport connection. We're working with, you know, the Valley Rail crew at San Joaquin JPA and Regional Rail Commission on. They will be doing it, working with Sacramento Transit Agency. Coordinate with them to make sure that happens. I know it's an important thing for, you know, North State is to get that.
Quick, I was recently at a town and gown meeting with Chico State, and one of their larger complaints for not being able to get students was because they couldn't figure out how to get from the Sacramento airport to Chico. I'm kind of wondering, colleges can't figure out how to get to Chico. That's a different question. But so in your meeting with them in August, you know, be sure to remind them that this is another way that they can get people up to come visit.
Absolutely.
And parents to come see their kids easily.
Yeah, that's a good comment, yeah. We've discussed that with Chico State staff already, and they emphasize that, you know, it's difficult for the kids to get to the Sacramento airport, like when fall semester ends and they need to go home for winter break. It's like, how do they get to the airport to fly back to SoCal or out of state? They're very excited about the.
I'm glad you explained it. The reason it has to go to Chico is because the students and their parents can't figure out how to get to work. So you clarified that for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
University, yeah. Thank you.
When we were back in, myself and Supervisor Peter, when we were making visits in Washington DC, and got support letters from our two senators, which was wonderful. But I'm not sure if you guys put it together or if the county put it together, but it was a great packet, and it was amazing. The different organizations and municipalities and agencies that support. So it's glad, Chris, I hope, you know, I don't know how old you are, but I hope it happens by the time you retire from BCAG.
We're working towards it. We're working.
And I hope I live long enough to at least write it once, you know.
Yeah. Doing our best.
I know. And just one other question, has it been pretty easy to work with Union Pacific on working with that issue with the rail, with competition with the freight trains?
Generally, yes. You know, Pacific staff has a great working relationship with Dan Levitt and his people at San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission and the JPA. mainly through working with like their ACE, Altamont Corridor Express program. So, they're very supportive. You know, we weren't sure if coming to Chico was gonna work on that subdivision, and, you know, it's gonna work with their freight trains. Biggest challenge with UP is just their availability. They don't have, as people say, a lot of bandwidth. So, like, you know, try to schedule a meeting, and you might wait a couple weeks till you hear back.
Yep.
And it's just kind of, it is what it is, but, they're great. We've developed a good working relationship with their staff. So they're excited. Some of them that we work with, went to Chico State. So, sorry, Bill.
No, and the reason I asked that is because I've tried to get a hold of people at, UP, they're tough. They're tough to get a hold of.
Yeah.
They basically don't have to answer to anybody.
Yeah.
So for you guys to, have a good relationship with them, I think.
Yeah, I think it's one of the keys to our project, really. And, having that relationship prior to our project coming in.
Other questions or comments?
I just want to add that BCAG has been including, Chris's public material when we go out and do our public outreach. All the comments we've received, overwhelming support.
Any questions? On to 12, which is 2024 Regional Transportation Improvement Program Development Schedule. Fun.
To close up the meeting, BCAG is required to prepare and adopt a regional transportation improvement program by December 15th of this year for the 2024 State Transportation Improvement Program, STIP. The purpose of the RTIP is to identify programming recommendations in the STIP for the next 5 fiscal years, beginning July 1st of 2024 through 29-30 fiscal year. STIP is adopted by the California Transportation Commission. It's comprised of 2 main components. RTIP, Regional Transportation Improvement Program, which represents 75% of the funding, and the counterpart, for Caltrans, the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, which represents 25% of that funding. Every 2 years, Caltrans prepares a fund estimate that identifies how much money do we have to work with over these 5 fiscal years. BCAG's target is estimated to be $8.4 billion. Included in your agenda is the RTIP STIP development schedule. Such, BCAG has issued a call for projects. BCAG has informed its Transportation Advisory Committee. We held a workshop with your respective public works directors. We held a public workshop as well. There are 4 basic requirements for all projects. Chris mentioned the project study report that consultant. 4 basic requirements are: the project has to be included in BCAG's Regional Transportation Plan Sustainable Community Strategies. All projects, everybody knows up front. If the project is not included in the RTP SES, it has to be amended. No exceptions. Project is required to have a project study report, a complete PSR, or that's for a state highway project. If it's not on the state highway, a PSR equivalent. Guidelines are posted online. Public Works directors, they are all fully aware. And the purpose of that is to ensure that the project has been vetted, to ensure it's adequately scoped. Performance measures. Depending on the project and the appropriate level of performance, a performance metric demonstration is required. Now, is it reducing VMT? Is there a mode shift? Is there an air quality benefit? So as appropriate to the project, is it a roundabout project? If so, what is the congestion reduced? As appropriate. Bike lane, what's the mode shift? What's the projected number of cyclists or people? The last component is an electronic project programming form. And that form is just a spreadsheet with various tabs that identifies the basic scope, schedule, and the funding. It's pretty straightforward. Project criteria and evaluation will be based on the goals of the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, the CAPTI, built on the Governor's Executive Orders N 1919 and N 7920. These executive orders and the CAPTI are the basis for which all transportation funding is based through BCAG. Additionally, BCAG is required to report progress on federal performance measures to FHWA and to the California Air Resources Board under Senate Bill 375 for achieved greenhouse gas reductions, right to what Brian presented earlier. In an effort to meet these various state and federal goals, RTIP project evaluation criteria is expected to focus on greenhouse gas reduction, EMT reduction, development and integration of public transit with multimodal rail, bicycle, and pedestrian infrastructure, mode shift. Also significant, is there significant expansion of equitable transportation opportunities to underserved communities, always safety. Again, staff has issued a call for projects. Your public works directors are aware. Project applications are due to BCAG on John's birthday, September 1st. And as the RTIP gets developed, staff will keep presenting this to the BCAG.
Questions or comments by the board?
One thing I do want to add, Chris was talking about, BCAG will be nominating $2.5 million BCAG share and recommending that Caltrans program $2.5 million, going 50-50. That recommendation went from Caltrans District 3 quarters. They are currently reviewing all of those requests statewide, and I think we should have a pretty good idea towards October on that. At the end of the day, it's the California Transportation Commission who decides.
Any public comment? Go ahead. You
Just
can be public.
I can be public. City of Orville does have a new public works director. They'll be on the job at the end of this month, and then a new planning and development services director, Patrick Pyatt from Willows, and then Fred Mayer from Vallejo. So we'll get into, have them come over and meet you guys and get up to speed. We haven't had a public works director for a long time.
We'd be happy to come over there too.
Thank you.
Any items from the floor? None. Close that. We're adjourning the meeting. We'll see you here August 24th. Once we can.
Possible.
I'm gonna ride the train to Orville.
Has John's retirement party been,